Because I was exceptionally good at eating, I was chosen to cure the picky eating habits of the Andrew family's young master. The first time we met, he had just argued with his girlfriend, so angry that he hadn't eaten all day. When his frustrated eyes swept over me, a comment section immediately appeared in the air. "Here she comes, here she comes." The green tea supporting female character will surely seize the opportunity to seduce the male lead. Does the supporting female character know her place? Even if they argue, our male lead still loves the female lead, okay? I was still chewing the food in my mouth, stunned by those words. I quietly offered him the dragon fruit in my hand, stammering, "Do you want some dragon fruit?" When I followed the servant to the door of John Andrew's room, intense crashing sounds echoed from inside. I heard that John had argued with his girlfriend again. John Andrew naturally had a bad temper, headstrong and uncontrollable, with only his girlfriend being able to persuade him somewhat. This argument caused his loss of appetite to relapse. He had locked himself in his room all day without eating. The doctor suggested finding someone who loved food and having them eat in front of him to stimulate his appetite. So, Madame Adela, John Andrew's mother, sought me out, the most famously hearty eater in the village, who enjoyed all 4 meals a day. She asked me to perform eating and promised to pay for my grandmother's medical bills, so I agreed. At this moment, I was still holding the dragon fruit. The servant had hastily shoved into my hand. The servant heard the noise inside the room, looking troubled, and pushed me forward, saying, "Miss, you go in yourself. I have to go first." As soon as she left, I couldn't resist peeling the dragon fruit and taking a huge bite. The sweet flesh of the fruit exploded in my mouth. Rich people's things really are different. Even the fruit is this delicious. Chewing, I pushed the door open and stepped in. The room was a mess, like a battleground. John Andrew's eyes were sharp, his expression gloomy. Hearing the noise, he looked at me with annoyance. The moment our eyes met, the comment section appeared in the air again. "Here she comes! Here she comes!" The green tea supporting female character will surely seize the opportunity to seduce the male lead. Does the supporting female character know her place? Even if they argue, the male lead still loves the female lead, okay? If the supporting female character dares to harbor intentions, just wait to be kicked out onto the street to scavenge for food. Reading that, I was so scared that I stopped chewing, staring blankly at the words. John Andrew saw my silence and grew even more impatient. He let out a low shout, his eyes unintentionally lingering on the fruit juice clinging to the corner of my mouth, then glanced at the dragon fruit in my hand. Perhaps because his gaze lasted too long, I mistakenly thought he wanted to eat too. So, I nervously, reluctantly held out my favorite dragon fruit to him. With the food still in my mouth, I stammered, "Do you want some dragon fruit?" John Andrew frowned, saying coldly, "Get out!" I quietly withdrew my hand, hugging the dragon fruit and whispering, "Yes, all right." That evening, John Andrew still didn't come out for dinner. I thought I was about to be fired, as he clearly didn't accept my presence to cure his illness. Lying in the room, the servant arranged for me. The more I thought, the sadder I felt. My stomach growled loudly. Since I didn't get a chance to perform eating, I only had the 1 dragon fruit for dinner, so now I was starving. Unable to bear it any longer, I secretly went downstairs to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator to check the ingredients, and planned to cook myself a simple bowl of tomato egg noodles. Halfway through, I impulsively added a sausage, and to balance the nutrition, I threw in a handful of small green vegetables. Soon, a steaming, fragrant pot of noodles was ready. The tomato broth was rich, savory, and slightly sweet. The scrambled eggs were soft. The noodles were chewy, and with a touch of green vegetables, it looked delicious. I squatted in the kitchen, eating and sniffing, completely lost to the world. While eating happily, a noise suddenly sounded outside. I looked up with a start, meeting John Andrew's deep, inscrutable eyes. I don't know how long he had been standing there watching me. 3 minutes later, the dining room lights turned on. I sat at the dining table, continuing to eat my noodles, while John Andrew silently sat next to me, watching. At first, being stared at made me a little self-conscious, but as the noodles entered my mouth, I forgot everything. After finishing 1 bowl, I was about to get another. John Andrew finally spoke, his voice carrying a hint of doubt. "Is it that delicious?" My cheeks were puffed out, unable to speak with my mouth full, so I just nodded enthusiastically. He seemed to let out a soft laugh and said quietly, "How can someone be so foolish?" Then, he ordered me as if it were the most natural thing, "Then get me a bowl." I was surprised and overjoyed, nodding while chewing. Fortunately, I had made 3 bowls. I originally planned to eat all of them myself, but now I could share one with John Andrew, as long as I could keep this job. I brought out 2 more bowls of noodles. The noodles were slightly soft but had absorbed the flavor well, with the broth soaking into every strand. Handing him the chopsticks, I cheerfully said, "Try it! I cook really well." John Andrew was indeed a young master. Even eating noodles exuded elegance. When he took a bite, I eagerly asked, "How is it?" He didn't answer directly, just said indifferently, "You keep eating." So I immediately picked up my chopsticks and continued eating enthusiastically, even drinking all the broth. Only when I was finished did I realize John Andrew had eaten more than half a bowl. The comment section immediately appeared in the air. Wait, where is the male lead's loss of appetite? Didn't he feel nauseous just looking at food? And yet now he's eaten half a bowl of noodles in one go. But my God, I crave tomato egg noodles too. Seeing this at midnight is making me starve. The supporting female character eats so well, just watching her makes me swallow. After that, I successfully stayed at the Andrew house. Because of his poor appetite, John Andrew had quite severe stomach problems. Madame Adela said that as long as I could get him to eat one meal, she would pay me 1,000 yuan. If he also ate fruit or dessert, she would add another 1,000 yuan. So, for a long time, I followed John Andrew, trying to coax him into eating a few more bites. Gradually, his appetite improved slightly. Madame Adela was overjoyed and even arranged for me to attend the same school as John Andrew so I could supervise his eating. Today, as usual, I placed a fragrant mango-filled pastry on John Andrew's desk and quickly returned to my class. I had noticed lately that he was quite willing to eat when mangoes were involved, so I chose this kind of pastry. Waiting until class was over, I excitedly ran to his classroom to check the result. But when I arrived, the situation in the classroom was chaotic. John Andrew's girlfriend was clutching her chest, breathing with difficulty, her arms covered in red rashes. John Andrew frantically asked, "What's wrong?" The girl looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. She trembled and pointed at me, saying, "Daria said I could eat it too. I tried a bite. I didn't know it had mango. I'm allergic to mango." The comments exploded. "I told you." How could the supporting female character restrain herself from causing trouble? See, she finally pulled a trick, intentionally giving the female lead mango to cause an allergic reaction. What a wicked person. Oh my God, the female lead is suffering so much. Just looking at it makes my heart ache. The male lead will surely be heartbroken to death. I quickly picked up the pastry, which had a bite taken out of it, and anxiously explained, "I clearly said this was a mango pastry. She was the one who asked if she could eat it. I only said she could if John Andrew agreed, and I emphasized that it was a mango pastry." But the female lead, Selena, didn't listen. She pointed at me and whined to John Andrew, but I didn't hear that part. "John, I'm in so much pain." I frowned, still wanting to explain. "How could you not hear it? We can check the surveillance camera." Actually, Selena's accusation was clumsy. A quick check of the camera, or witnesses, would immediately prove my innocence. I looked at John Andrew with anticipation, hoping he would believe me. But at this moment, Selena was clutching her chest, her face was pale, her tearful eyes stubbornly fixed on him. John Andrew immediately stopped paying attention to me, hugging her painfully. Before I could even finish my sentence, he impatiently brushed my hand away, causing the pastry box in my hand to fall to the ground. The exquisite pastry flew onto the floor covered in dirt. He carefully embraced Selena, irritably interrupting me. "That's enough. Selena has always been straightforward. Would she really lie to me? You don't need to try and defend yourself anymore." With that, he took Selena to the hospital. I stared blankly at his retreating back, a feeling of being wronged welling up inside me. It wasn't because of the misunderstanding, but because I thought, damn it, there goes another 1,000 yuan. Then I quietly calculated how many more meals John Andrew needed to eat before I had enough money for my grandmother's surgery. The result was at least 70 more meals. Fortunately, Selena's allergic reaction was treated in time and left no lasting consequences. After 3 days of sulking, John Andrew finally contacted me again. He called me at 9 p.m. His voice was lazy but with a hint of laughter. "Hey, idiot. Go buy me some pear blossom pastry from the shop on the west side of the city. I want to eat it. And the shop closes at 10 p.m. He meant I only had 1 hour to get there. Hearing that there was money to be earned, my eyes immediately lit up, and I replied, "Wait a moment, I'm going right now." Right after, I heard teasing laughter on the phone. "John, where did you find such a little nanny? So obedient, speaking so softly, like you're coaxing a child." I slightly frowned. Growing up in a southern village, even though I spoke Mandarin, I couldn't avoid a slight regional accent. John Andrew seemed to be in a good mood. He just said "menenem" and chuckled softly, urging, "Hurry up and go." I rushed to buy the pastry and followed his GPS location to the place. By the time I arrived, it was past 10 p.m. Getting out of the car, a chilling wind swept past. The area was deserted. There were no shops, and certainly no karaoke room like he mentioned. I hugged the box of pear blossom pastry, feeling lost on the empty road. A few old streetlights flickered faintly. I called him 3 times, all busy. So, I squatted under a streetlight to wait. I was too hungry to resist, so I secretly ate 1 piece of the pastry. By the 5th call, no one answered. As I chewed the pastry, I realized John Andrew was probably deliberately playing a trick on me. I don't know how long passed before my legs were numb, and he finally called back. His voice was faint, carrying a hint of indifference. It was all because of you that she had an allergic reaction. Girls are petty and easily offended, you know. Daria, this time was just to teach you a lesson. Remember it. On the other end, Selena sounded unconvinced, pouting and lightly punching his chest. I do not mind. John Andrew smiled helplessly and said, all right, you're not mind. Then he turned back to me and said, well, I've sent the new address. Hurry up and get here. I wiped my face, thinking that since things had come to this, as long as John Andrew was willing to eat, it was fine. Otherwise, tonight's trip would truly be a waste. When I reached the door of the private room, laughter was booming inside. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Selena, who seemed to have just secretly kissed John Andrew amidst the cheers of the others. The comment section immediately appeared, oh my god, so sweet. The female lead is so shy after just one kiss. But why do I feel like she intentionally let the supporting female character see it? What an adorable way to secretly declare her territory. The supporting female character probably doesn't know the pear blossom pastry was only prepared for the female lead. Haha. The simp gets nothing in the end. Selena's face was flushed from the stolen kiss. Seeing me walk in, she immediately approached, naturally taking the pastry box from my hand and saying, thanks for buying it for me. Then she took a piece and ate it, offering another piece to John Andrew's lips and saying, John, you try some too. John Andrew instinctively frowned, slightly tilting his head away, then said nonchalantly, I won't eat it. You eat. Selena immediately lost interest, pouting, then I don't want to eat anymore. With that, she threw the pastry box aside. I had gritted my teeth and held back tears when I had to run all the way to the west side of the city. I didn't cry when I squatted by the roadside for half an hour in the cold wind. But now, knowing that John Andrew never intended to eat, I felt like the sky was crashing down. All the accumulated grievances surged up. I tried to suppress them, but the corners of my eyes still turned red. Unwilling to give up, I picked up a piece of pastry, asking in a trembling voice, do you really not want to try it? John Andrew's friends laughed. John, your little nanny is so obedient. You just said you wanted pear blossom pastry, and she remembered it all night. Come on, eat a piece. She's about to cry. John Andrew's expression seemed to soften. The pear blossom pastry that he usually hated didn't look completely unappetizing now. He subtly curled his lip, finally taking it from my hand and slowly eating it. Stepping out of the private room, I couldn't hold it back anymore. I walked and cried. Wandering to the nearby night market, I wiped my tears while ordering a family happiness sandwich. Returning to the villa, I ate the sandwich while sobbing. The butler panicked, quickly pulling me inside and asking, oh dear, why are you eating and crying like this? Is it so delicious it moves you? I tightly held the sandwich, choking out my complaint. The pear blossom pastry was completely wasted. He didn't want to eat it at all. He was just playing a trick on me. The butler sighed upon hearing this and led me to the living room. But today, there was a strange man in the living room. He was wearing a tailored suit. Hearing the story, his cold, deep eyes quietly settled on me. The butler quickly introduced us. Eldest young master, this is the person. The madam invited to cure the second young master's picky eating. I was startled, realizing I had just bad-mouthed John Andrew in front of his older brother. I immediately felt uneasy, whispering, hello? The man merely glanced at me indifferently, nodding slightly. The butler briefly glanced down at my hand, not pleased to see the half-eaten sandwich. The butler saw me eating and crying and frowned. Is just a sandwich enough? Tell me what else you want to eat, and I'll make it for you. I blinked, thought for a moment, and replied, I'd also like some wontons. Very quickly, a steaming bowl of wontons was served. Thin skin, soft filling, with shrimp and seaweed served in a white porcelain bowl, steaming hot. Paired with the sandwich, it was truly perfect. I immediately cheered up and began to eat heartily. But before long, I felt a probing gaze on me. The man in the living room walked closer. He didn't say anything, just stood next to me, watching. My cheeks were puffed out. I chewed while looking back at him, confused. After a long while, he finally opened his mouth. How much does my mother pay you? I swallowed and obediently answered, 1,000 yuan for every meal John Andrew agrees to eat. He seemed to let out a slight laugh upon hearing this, then asked again, do you want to take on an extra job? Remind me to eat on time, and eat with me. 10,000 yuan per meal. How does that sound? I was so astonished that my eyes widened, nearly choking. He leaned slightly closer, finally unable to resist, and gently pinched my cheek. Seeing me stunned and unable to reply, he pondered for a moment, then spoke. Calmly, as if discussing business, I just find your eating very appetizing. I don't have a picky appetite. I will eat on time, and I won't make you cry. Does that work? I froze, stopping my chewing motion, eyes wide as I asked, really? Really? He nodded. I won't lie to you. Later, I learned from the servants that the two young masters of the Andrew family had one with an eating disorder and the other was a workaholic. John Andrew's older brother, Devlin Andrew, though only 4 years older, had started his own business in college. After graduating, he took over the family business. Because he was too busy, he often forgot to eat, only realizing he hadn't eaten when his stomach burned at night. Thus, our contract was finalized at 10,000 yuan per meal. With an extra major client like Devlin Andrew, I would quickly save enough money and could also provide better medical care for my grandmother. For 3 days, John Andrew didn't seek me out. This time, I didn't actively follow him either. I used the time to research Devlin Andrew's food preferences. On the 4th day, I returned to class after lunch. Most students were taking their lunch break, but John Andrew, who hadn't spoken to me for days, was lazily sitting in my seat. Seeing me walk in, he slightly raised an eyebrow and asked, "Are you busy lately? Why haven't you come to find me?" I walked straight to my desk, showing little interest in replying. He reached out and gently touched my cheek, asking with some curiosity, "Are you angry?" I took out my book, still not saying anything. The young master, who had been pampered since childhood probably, rarely experienced being ignored like this, so he also fell silent. A minute later, an exquisite pastry box was pushed in front of me, placed right on my book, next to a strawberry cream cake, my favorite. Only then did I look up at him and ask, "Are you apologizing?" John Andrew paused slightly. The word apologize was not in his life's dictionary. Even when he argued with Selena was the one who yielded first. At this moment, he had just remembered me and casually sought me out. In the end, John Andrew didn't answer the question, only saying, "I bought this for you." "Idiot! Let's go out to eat together tonight." I truly hadn't expected John Andrew to proactively ask me to eat. The image of 1,000 yuan waving in front of me immediately appeared in my mind. I unconsciously sighed and replied, "Fine." I didn't want to get involved with him anymore, but who would refuse money? The freshly baked cookies were fragrant, sprinkled with crunchy nut crumbs. I opened the box, casually put one in my mouth, and my eyes immediately lit up. I chewed and complimented them. They were delicious. I ate another one. Soon, half the box was gone. Only then did I notice John Andrew was still sitting next to me, having not left. I thought for a moment, took another cookie, and casually asked without much expectation, "Do you want one?" He looked down at my pale, small fingers holding the milky yellow cookie. It looked strangely appealing. His throat subtly moved, then he unexpectedly leaned over, directly biting the cookie from my hand. His lips brushed lightly against my fingertip, sending a warm sensation through me. I was startled, quickly pulling my hand back, instinctively leaning away, frowning in disapproval. The very next second, the cream cake placed beside me flew up, landing directly on my head. The rich cream mixed with fruit jam matted my hair, slowly dripping down my face. Selena shrieked, "You like to eat so much? I'll let you eat until you're sick of it." I slowly raised my hand to wipe the cream and jam mixture from my face. The comments above reappeared. "The female lead is so cool. The supporting female character tries to seduce someone else's boyfriend every day, serves her. Right, but wait, did the supporting female character even do anything that bad? Haha, stop defending her. Isn't feeding someone else's boyfriend food seduction?" I only froze for a second before immediately reacting, grabbing the cup of water nearby and splashing it toward Selena. But a figure was faster than me, blocking right in front of her. As a result, all the water drenched John Andrew. The comments exploded. "The male lead protecting the female lead is so cool. That's a pure instinctual reaction. A new relationship to stan. Haha, the supporting female character looks like a clown now." Everything happened in a flash. When John Andrew finally reacted, in front of him was me, my hair sticky with cream and jam, while Selena was unharmed, only clinging to his arm, her red eyes glistening with tears. "John, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have been miserable." This time, John Andrew didn't rush to respond to her. He looked at me for a few seconds, then frowned and said, "Selena is just thoughtless. Don't take it to heart." Selena pouted, her voice was sulky. "She's just a nanny. What's there to pity?" I looked at them silently. The atmosphere immediately grew tense. Perhaps John Andrew had never seen this expression on my face. His eyes briefly flashed with a hint of confusion, then he blurted out, "Selena is just like that. Why be angry? I'll have someone clean your clothes and compensate you 10 times the cost," he said, reaching out to me. I calmly stepped aside and said, "No need." John Andrew for once lowered his voice. "Then tonight, I'll have the butler make some of your favorite dishes. We can eat together." I looked up, straight into his eyes, and said seriously, "No need, not anymore." Under numerous strange glances, I silently walked out of the school gate. Standing at the entrance, I felt empty, unsure of where to go. I suddenly remembered that it had been a very, very long time since I had eaten a meal cooked over a wood fire by my grandmother. Distracted, a luxurious, simple yet extravagant car slowly stopped in front of me. I thought I was blocking the car's path, so I quietly moved aside. But the window of the back seat lowered. The man in the car, through his gold-rimmed glasses, looked directly at me. He frowned slightly, then quickly softened his expression, switching to a gentle look. "What happened to you?" I momentarily forgot my sadness and asked in surprise, "You, Devlin Andrew. Shouldn't you be working right now? Why are you here?" He replied in a steady, deep voice. "You didn't remind me to eat lunch today. I thought something might have happened to you." With that, the driver got out and opened the door for me. In the car, Devlin Andrew took out a handkerchief and patiently wiped the cream from my sticky hair, then gently brushed my cheek. The slightly ticklish sensation made my heart flutter. Afterward, he took me back to his private apartment and told me to take a shower. When I finished showering and came out, his assistant arrived just in time with food. The assistant handed me the meal box. His face was extremely serious and patted my shoulder, instructing, "Miss Daria, this meal is all up to you. Good luck." Then he slipped away. I was confused, not understanding anything, and intended to call Devlin Andrew out to eat. As I walked into his study, I discovered he was in a video conference. I immediately remembered what the butler had said. Devlin Andrew hated being disturbed while working. As I hesitated, he looked up, peering at me over his glasses. Since it had come to this, I mustered all my courage. "Mr. Devlin, you should eat now." The moment I spoke, the entire online meeting room fell silent. Devlin Andrew remained composed, casually saying, "That's enough for today." Then he decisively ended the call. On the dining table, the dishes were already set out. Since I had already eaten lunch, I only sat quietly watching him eat. His manner of eating was elegant and methodical, completely different from John Andrew's picky eating, and also different from my eating like a starving tiger. It was truly pleasant to watch. I thought to myself, the assistant seems to have worried unnecessarily, as Devlin Andrew clearly eats very punctually. Perhaps my gaze lingered too long. He put down his chopsticks and slowly asked, "Are you still upset?" Before I could answer, he continued, "I had someone check the camera footage of Selena's mango allergy incident. It wasn't your fault. I also sent the video to John Andrew. Whether he believes it or not is his business, but you deserve to be cleared." I was stunned. I hadn't expected him to quietly resolve the matter for me. After a long moment, I whispered, "Thank you." Devlin Andrew pondered for a few seconds, then inexplicably pulled out a piece of pastry and asked, "Wanna eat?" I knew he just wanted to cheer me up. But the moment I saw the pastry, I remembered the incident at school. The sense of grievance rushed back, making my mood sink. In less than 2 seconds, I suddenly realized that because of John Andrew and Selena, I had lost my love for pastries. The thing that used to bring sweetness now only evoked feelings of disgust, anger, and sadness. Thinking this, I frowned tightly. No! Pastries are innocent. How can I hate them? I absolutely had to reclaim that love. As this thought crossed my mind, I immediately made a decision. I took out my phone and sent a message to Madame Adela. "I'm sorry, madam. I don't think I can continue with this job. Thank you for the opportunity, but I've decided to resign. I hope your son's picky eating will improve soon." After sending the message, I suddenly felt a great sense of relief, as if I could instantly eat 5 pastries. Just then, a comment appeared. "Great! The supporting female character has angered both the male and female leads, and she's about to be kicked out onto the street to scavenge for food." Wait, why is the supporting female character with the biggest boss in the story? Is she trying to beg the big shot for help? Although he's capable, why would he help her so easily? What? Devlin Andrew is the biggest boss? I thought Selena would instigate John Andrew to take revenge on the supporting female character. But if she manages to cling to Devlin Andrew now, could she flip the script? Haha. Failing to seduce the male lead, now she's targeting the big shot? She looks innocent and cute on the outside, but her heart is full of dirty schemes. How disgusting! Doesn't the supporting female character know the big shot is much harder to deal with than the male lead? Messing with him will only lead to disappearance. Those words filled me with both surprise and unease. Meanwhile, Devlin Andrew was completely unaware. Seeing me look distracted, he sighed softly. The next second, the powerful boss gently leaned down, lightly pinched my cheek, forcing me to look up at him. The deep eyes behind his glasses flashed with a subtle sadness. He said, "Daria, don't think about John Andrew anymore. 10,000 yuan a meal for you to take care of me. You should think more about me." In the days that followed, I brought meals to Devlin Andrew punctually. Sometimes it was food the assistant bought, sometimes it was something I cooked myself. As long as I brought food, he would immediately drop all his work and sit down to eat with me, as if he paid the money just to have a companion at the dining table. Over time, even the company's receptionists became familiar with me, their eyes holding a hint of respect. I found it strange but didn't ask any further. That day, I personally prepared a sumptuous meal, happily bringing it to Devlin Andrew. But as soon as I reached the company entrance, I ran into John Andrew. He seemed to be arguing with his brother. Getting closer, I heard John Andrew angrily shout, "Devlin Andrew, based on what?" Devlin Andrew, taking a document file from his assistant, calmly replied, "Based on this being my bank card. Mom can't manage you, so I have to step in. You've become more and more lawless lately." John Andrew never backed down from anyone, and was about to say more. I felt awkward seeing this, so I just whispered, "Mr. Devlin, I'll wait for you outside." The moment my words ended, both of them turned to look at me simultaneously. John Andrew's gloomy expression instantly vanished. He raised an eyebrow, challenging his brother. "My person has come to find me. I don't have time to argue with you anymore." With that, he quickly walked toward me, taking the meal box from my hand with a slight look of disdain, but his eyes were bright as he said, "Hey, idiot, you finally decided to pay? Attention to me. You haven't come to find me to eat, and you haven't answered my messages. Are you getting bold? The food the servants make is terrible. Without you, I can't eat." He opened the meal box, his eyes narrowed with interest. "Did you cook this yourself?" I took the meal box back, seriously saying, "Sorry, this isn't for you." John Andrew raised an eyebrow, laughing as he asked, "Why? Don't I share the Andrew name?" I was slightly confused, not understanding why he thought that, but still patiently explained, "This is prepared for your brother. I won't be coming to eat with you anymore." After speaking, I closed the meal box, ready to turn and leave. John Andrew suddenly gripped my wrist tightly, frowning. "What do you mean? Explain it clearly." His eyes were filled with genuine confusion. I forced myself to endure and finally asked, "Haven't you watched the surveillance video?" He asked, "What video?" I was doubtful. "You didn't receive it?" John Andrew thought for a moment and replied, "Selena accidentally broke my phone a few days ago. All my messages are gone. Did you send me something?" I quickly glanced at him, only saying, "It's nothing." Whether John Andrew watched the video or not no longer mattered to me. John Andrew frowned even tighter. His heart felt empty, carrying a vague unease. But I just pulled my hand back, saying calmly, "Someone else will accompany you from now on. Don't text me anymore." I believed I had explained clearly enough. Very soon, someone new would certainly be invited to cure his picky eating, and he and I would have no further interactions. Ending this matter made me feel lighter. Afterward, I happily rushed over to Devlin Andrew. Over the time we spent together, I no longer felt nervous facing him. Although he spoke little, every word he said was a response, as if he was always patiently tolerant of me. I chattered excitedly. "Guess what dish I made today?" He took the meal box from my hand, thought for a moment, and replied, "Coca-Cola chicken wings?" I was astonished. "How did you know?" He smiled and answered, "Because you said the other day that you make that dish very well." I smiled brightly and said, "That's right. I'll cook that for you more often in the future." Devlin Andrew also smiled, cooperating perfectly. "Thank you for the reward, Miss Daria." I felt truly comfortable around Devlin Andrew. As we went upstairs together, I accidentally looked down and saw John Andrew still standing below. He was watching my retreating figure, seemingly lost in thought. In the following days, I continued to go to school and maintain the routine of eating with Devlin Andrew. One day, when being engrossed in my homework, I overheard my classmates gossiping. I heard Selena and John Andrew had a huge fight and broke up. Then she transferred schools. I didn't pay much attention, continuing to write my assignment. While calculating, my deskmate suddenly tapped my shoulder and said, "Daria, John Andrew is looking for you outside." I looked up and met John Andrew's tired gaze. He stood right at the classroom door, clearly signaling he wouldn't leave until I came out. I reluctantly stepped out and asked, "What do you want?" John Andrew looked at me for a long time, then whispered, "Daria, I'm sorry." I recovered the chat history and saw the camera footage. "I misunderstood you before. It was my fault." I was slightly stunned, not expecting it was because of this. The person who was always so arrogant now bowed his head. He quietly said, "I broke up with Selena and had her transfer schools. Please don't be angry with me anymore, okay?" Immediately, dense comments appeared in the air. "The plot is completely ruined. The male and female leads broke up again?" I've been waiting for this for so long. Now it's clear. These male and female leads are truly neurotic. The supporting female character didn't provoke or offend anyone, did she? I said she was innocent before, and you all scolded me. Now what? Can I go back to siding with the supporting female character? I couldn't stand the male and female leads anymore. If it weren't for the supporting female character's delicious eating, I would have stopped watching a long time ago. So what is the male lead's attitude now? Why do I feel like he likes the supporting female character? I ignored the comments and only sighed softly, saying, John Andrew, I no longer care about any of this. When I followed you before, forcing you to eat more, it was only for the extra 1,000 yuan. I've resigned now. Your business has nothing to do with me anymore. John Andrews stared intensely at me, his voice hoarse. Was it only for the money? I nodded and replied, yes, only for the money. Truthfully, at the very beginning, I did consider trying to please him. Without him, I couldn't have raised even half the money for my grandmother's surgery. Therefore, despite his volatile temper and tendency to torment others, I endured. But being misunderstood and framed repeatedly made me doubt if I could continue the job. In the end, I was truly exhausted. The corners of John Andrews' eyes reddened. He asked, unwilling to give up. Then that day you rushed all the way to the west side of the city to buy me pear blossom pastry. Was that only for the money too? I honestly nodded, that's right. Fortunately, you still took a bite afterward. My effort wasn't wasted. From then on, my desk often contained breakfast, fruit, or pastries. Gradually, rumors spread that the Andrew family's young master was pursuing me. When the teacher called me into the office, I only said seriously, I am focused on preparing for the university entrance exam. I will absolutely not date. After speaking, I stepped out and saw John Andrew standing not far away. His face was pale. I don't know how long he had been listening, but I didn't stop. I just returned to class to continue studying. A few months later, the university entrance exam successfully concluded. The day the results came out, I was still eating breakfast with Devlin Andrew. When I saw I had scored enough to enter my dream 985 university, I was so excited that I hugged him and said, Devlin, I passed. I really passed. He wrapped his arms around my waist, his low voice warm. Yes, our Daria is very clever. Only when I calmed down did I realize the position was a bit ambiguous. My whole body was practically tucked into his embrace. His low voice next to my ear made my cheeks flush. Besides the score, I also won a large university scholarship. And, coincidentally, it was also the day of my grandmother's surgery. The hospital, doctors, and equipment were all the best, but I was still restless with worry. Devlin Andrew temporarily put aside his work and waited with me outside the operating room. My hands were drenched with sweat, still clutching his hand tightly. After an unknown amount of time, the doctor stepped out. The surgery was very successful. After a period of observation, if there are no issues, she can be discharged. I finally sighed in relief. That evening, Devlin Andrew had to deal with work, so he had his assistant bring me dinner. A knock sounded at the door. I quickly opened it, thinking it was the assistant. Unexpectedly, I saw John Andrew. He was holding expensive gifts. His expression was very serious as he said, I came to visit Grandma. I wish her a speedy recovery. I reluctantly invited him in. John Andrew was a little awkward, trying to find topics to talk about. A little later, I walked him out. John Andrew stood in front of me, a tense look flashing in his eyes, and said, Daria, I have something I want to say to you. I looked at him, vaguely guessing what it was. Then I heard him slowly say, I like you. Can you give me a chance to pursue you? Although I was mentally prepared, hearing it directly still stunned me. Before I could reply, a hand suddenly draped over my shoulder. A cool, indifferent voice rang out, If you want to pursue her, you'll have to get in line. I turned around and saw Devlin Andrew, who should have been working right now, holding a box of ice in one hand and gently pulling me away from John Andrew with the other. John Andrew's face immediately darkened upon seeing him. He nearly ground his teeth. I knew her first. Based on what? Based on what do you get to go before me? Devlin Andrew raised an eyebrow, calmly replying, Perhaps because I've never had a former girlfriend. My grandmother's health recovered very well. She was discharged not long after. One day, she said she wanted to invite Devlin Andrew home for dinner. Grandma's cooking skills were excellent. Although we were in the countryside, the ingredients were fresh. In the morning, the chickens were still pecking at cabbage leaves. By noon, they became chicken stew with vegetables. The chicken was cooked with coconut water, the meat tender and sweet, the broth clear and fragrant. Ribs bought in the morning market became sweet and sour ribs in a large cast-iron pot by noon. There was also seafood porridge simmered over a low flame, thick and creamy, with shrimp and crab caught right from the stream near the village. Initially, I worried that Devlin Andrew might not be used to village food. But he ate very naturally, even eating a lot out of respect for Grandma. After eating, Grandma pulled me into a corner and whispered, How long have you two been together? I scratched my head, my ears flushed as I replied, We haven't yet. Grandma's eyes widened. I've met many people. That boy definitely likes you. I support you no matter what. So, before the start of university, Devlin Andrew and I officially became a couple. As I was busy packing my luggage, preparing to enter student life, I ran into John Andrew again after a long time. He seemed to have lost a lot of weight. He quietly looked at me for a long time, then suddenly asked, Daria, if I had watched that camera footage sooner, would things have turned out differently for us? The trees were lush green, the sunlight was bright. I looked at him, feeling momentarily confused, and instinctively remembered the first night I met John Andrew, the warm yellow light on the dining table, and the first time he finished the noodles I cooked. At that time, I once thought John Andrew was easy to coax. But if he had bothered to investigate the truth when Selena had an allergic reaction, if he hadn't left me alone in the dark to defend Selena, if the pastry hadn't fallen on my head, I looked at him very seriously and replied, John Andrew, there are no if in this world. Afterward, John Andrew went abroad to study, with a professional team treating his eating disorder. The butler quietly told me that Devlin Andrew arranged everything. I was slightly surprised. He sent John Andrew abroad? Just as I asked, Devlin Andrew appeared behind me. He pulled me into the room, placed me on his lap like a child, and gently kissed me. A faint, cool scent of wood enveloped me. Dazed by the kiss, I heard him sigh softly, his voice tinged with annoyance. Who told that kid to keep clinging to you? Thinking about his sister-in-law every day isn't a good thing. I laughed, looking up. My whole body was nestled in his arms. I kissed him back, gently reassuring him, Devlin Andrew, you are the one I love most.